everybody, to the Amazon EU Masters. You know, on the analyst desk, we've had Laure representing the LFL. You know, being a little bit biased for the French team, but here on the caster desk, you know, Jamada, both of us wearing the orange today. And you know what? With this rookie mid laner, Dajor stepping in, I feel like for Fnatic Rising this series, it's all started with success. And now moving to game number 3. How are you feeling, Jamada? Because I'm feeling pretty good for Fnatic right now.
Yeah, okay. Potential curse aside, I am looking very positively at Fnatic Rising right now. They just seem to have prepped for Misfits so well. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I think Dagda was also framing it quite correctly too. They just understand their drafts really, really well. Misfits, you know, they've come in sort of 2 times, I think, with relatively easy to execute compositions where, you know, pushing an early lead will definitely, you know, heavily benefit them, just sort of in the context of their own drafts. But they just haven't really been able to push it beyond, you know, 2,000-3,000. And then Fnatic Rising come online with their own champions, and they understand very intimately, very thoroughly how their champions want to work into Misfits Premiers. And they just don't allow Misfits to really play their own game. It's Fnatic Rising taking control of the map, taking control of tempo, and never letting go as soon as they grab it.
And I feel like for the side of Misfits now, moving back over to the blue side here, you know, there's another thing that's blue that could help them, and that's a tweet from Cloud9 saying 2-0, no way Fnatic wins at this point.
Cloud9
loses at this point. Yeah, I love that we're seeing this Aurelia ban coming out, right, for Dajor. Like, it feels like Dajor has garnered so much respect over the course of this series, right? We saw the TF ban in game number 2 against him. We see the Aurelia ban in game number 3. Dajor, as the rookie, as the guy that only joined halfway through this split, has become the centerpiece for Fnatic Rising.
Yep, he plays a champion and gets banned, and this time it's going to be double mid lane focus here with the Aurelia, with the Twisted Fate. Now that says to me, of course, the priority on the Ryze slowly starting to rise higher and higher. Of course, you have to also think about the Sylas as a potential response into it now with the Aurelia off the cards. Looks like Fnatic Rising sticking to their guns in terms of, you know, the sort of Lee Sin, Xin Zhao sort of angle on these bans. We'll see if Misfits now, you know, I imagine from this angle, probably drop the Gangplank ban, look for something else. I'm not entirely sure what, though. Maybe they just go for the full free, like, mid lane bans. Maybe they just drop Sylas here, force Fnatic Rising into a situation where they have to ban Ryze, or, you know, it's going to turn into this sort of trade between Ryze, Viego, and X. Of course, the Varus as well, something spoken about very heavily on the desk. Misfits, are they going to remove it? The answer is no. They have more interest instead in MAXI's Nidalee, which has been a very big proponent of why Fnatic Rising have been getting ahead in their early games too. So what often...
Isn't it crazy how much the draft has changed as well across the course of this series, Jamada? Because we've gone from like this very static draft at the very start where it was focusing on the power picks, whereas now it's like Misfits are just banning things that they've lost to in this series. They're like, get rid of MAXI, get rid of Dajor.
Ooh, okay, there we go. So, bit of a swap up here from Misfits. They are going to pick up the Varus. They're going to take that away from Bean. So now the question is, what will Bean play into the Varus? Obviously very comfortable on the champion, but locking in the Varus allows Dajor to snap up the Ryze. And not only that, the Viego is there if they want it. Xin Zhao, Nidalee banned away, Lee Sin banned away. You then start to get relegated to champions like Trundle, you know, not necessarily as strong necessarily in the meta. And Fnatic Rising, I think, probably very happy with this trade.
Yeah, feels pretty good right now for the side of Fnatic as they get the Viego, they get Dajor. And here's the thing, right? This is still a comfort pick. You've got 2 bans towards Dajor, and he's still going to be sat on a comfort pick. We've got MAXI with arguably the strongest jungler available. Okay. And now for the side of Misfits, the work's cut out, right? They've got to find a good jungle matchup for themselves, and maybe a good mid lane matchup as well. It's the Orianna. No, the LeBlanc comes out from Sertuss.
I wanted to bring it up after you finished your point, but, you know, the timer ticks down. It's LeBlanc again, this time into the Ryze.
It's LeBlanc. I might have to start buttoning this up again, actually. I'm starting to get a little bit nervous.
Getting a little bit shaky. Yeah, I think now Trundle probably makes the most sense. I think you'll be able to actually bully a pick like Ryze quite heavily as soon as you blow his flash in the mid lane, unless you really want to prioritize support, but at this stage it wouldn't make sense. Instead, we're going to pivot towards the Olaf. So looking more towards that sort of level 6 point when Olaf, you know, obviously gets access to Ragnarok, and then all of a sudden you can't get CC'd, deals a ton of extra damage with the AD he gets. And skirmishing around the mid lane with this duo is going to be very, very difficult for Fnatic Rising at that level 6 mark. And now over to Bean. What's he going to lock? Ezreal probably comes to mind, but I think you lose so much agency, so I'd like to see something different. Instead, they're going to forego Bean's champion pool entirely so they can snap up the Kennen. And honestly, I like this because now you have this constant backline threat of, you know, being able to TP Pride in. Woolite's never necessarily going to be safe. They get, you know, 2 free bans towards the top side if they want it. I would also, honestly, I would love to see an Alistar ban because it can disengage the Kennen so well. And it can also potentially set you up, if you want it, for a rel pick too.
So we have to wonder now what the pick is going to be for Bean as well, because you'd anticipate the Ezreal's already been banned away. You could maybe ban something like the Ashe as well. But Bean has played Xayah across the course of this tournament. It's not been a super popular pick across EU Masters in general, but it has been something that Bean has been happy to go towards. And perhaps could be the solution to this conundrum that they have. Also, things like the Tristana still available.
Yeah, still loads of picks that Bean is very, very comfortable on. I recall the one Xayah game that he did get in, or I believe actually it was 2, but one of the 2 I recall, he had a fantastic performance on it where I can't remember the score off the top of my head, but he was dealing the dips, and that's all that really matters when you're playing that AD carry role. Rakan also going to be removed away. So Rhuckz,
I don't think that's an answer, right? Yeah. That's basically saying, hey, we think you're going to play Xayah, and we are not letting that 2v2 go through.
Yeah. So what is Bean going to lean on? Quite frankly, is the question on all of our minds. Jhin seems to be what is going to be the answer, so a bit more of a facilitating role this time around for the AD carry of Fnatic Rising. Does give now Misfits the opportunity to, of course, pick up their top laner into the Kennen. Gangplank could be an option if they feel like running it. Of course, you still have other picks that can get pretty aggressive in the lane, like Renekton, Gnar to match that sort of ranged form, and that's exactly what they're going to do. Over to Jactroll, got the option to lock in the Alistar, and I think probably the safest blind you could ask for as no pivot over to Leona.
And so it's going to be the Leona locked in here. It's certainly very good for the all-in alongside that Varus. It's certainly very good for setting up that Olaf and LeBlanc to one-shot people if they can find picks. Or as Rhuckz, you talked about the Alistar potentially as a ban for disengage here. Rhuckz is going to be able to find that for himself if he wants to lock that in. So let's talk holistically here, Jamada, about these compositions. What Misfits have brought to the table here, is it going to be enough to answer what Fnatic Rising have been doing each and every single game of the season?
I think they've given themselves the correct kind of tools to do exactly that. Answer them in that sort of 20-minute mark, that 15 to 20-minute mark, 25 even, where, you know, you have this LeBlanc who's really strong at that sort of 2 IM. If you can get her there on that timer mark, you've got the Olaf who is still, or should be, very, very potent at that point in the game. And on the opposite side, you know, Dajor's probably still going to be waiting for that huge IM spike for the tier stack up and all of the IM completions. Woolite, assuming things go to course, should be at 2 IMs as well. This is a much stronger composition in my eyes to sort of match the kind of aggression that Fnatic Rising have been pulling out at that 20-minute mark. I will say, however, there is now the spanner in the works of the Kennen yet again, where all it really takes is one massive Kennen armor, and you don't have the greatest level of disengage either for that Kennen, right? So if Pride slips into the backline, blows up Woolite, it's going to be very tricky and very hard for Misfits, in my eyes, to actually navigate some of these fights without their core carries.
It's going to be difficult, and we'll see if Pride is going to be able to have that level of performance as well, because Pride, going for this Kennen blind pick, and both games in this series so far has had a rough time during that laning phase. So it feels like Agresivoo versus Pride in the top side could be a deciding factor across the course of this game. But Jamada, we're going into game number 3. And right now, Fnatic are 2-0 up over Misfits Premier. And Misfits Premier as the favorite coming in, as the LFL champions, as the team that everyone was predicting a 3-0 for. They're coming in to game number 3. They have a veteran roster here, and they need to prove their worth.
Exactly, they need to prove their worth. Misfits, so much storied experience. Obviously, we highlight Jactroll and Woolite, but still, across the rest of the roster, there is a lot of time spent in competitive play. And situations like this shouldn't necessarily, you know, get to them. You think about younger players, rookie players, where they end up 0-2 in a series, and, you know, they start to shut off, they start to look, you know, less receptive, less sort of proactive. I don't think that's going to be the case for this Misfits lineup at all. And I think
you would hope
not, right? With some of the names that you see on the screen, you'd hope not.
With 200 collective years of gameplay experience between Woolite and Jactroll, you'd hope that they've got the mental to hold it in.
Yeah. So I think Misfits, you know, you've got this Olaf now who can play pretty aggressively into something like a Viego, can definitely take control of the jungle tempo, right? Sort of get these full clears in, or even not necessarily full clears. These are just very aggressive paths to neuter MAXI in the early game. We'll see how he exactly wants to navigate it, because we don't get to see Olaf too often these days. And again, highlighting in particular the mid jungle 2v2, I think Sertuss and Shlatan should have a very, very big advantage, especially once we hit level 6 and Shlatan can't be CC'd by Rune Prism or Spectral.
And, you know, for the first time in this series, we see opposite jungle paths, right? We've seen both junglers going towards that top side every single time. Now Shlatan going to be pathing towards the bottom lane. Bean and Rhuckz, you got to be careful here. Jactroll in. That's going to be Halo Blades onto Bean as well. But a good disengage from Rhuckz. Doesn't really matter, though, because that's half of your AD carry's health gone already. Beautiful stuff from Misfits.
Yeah, very good stuff. Bean has actually started Boots 4 pots, though. So he's going to have a lot of sustain, all things considered. So the trade at surface value, definitely still positive for Misfits, but maybe not as much hurt as you would maybe hope for in a lane like this. But again, just abusing the fact Alistar not really got a great level 1. And right now, Bean hasn't even picked up a single CS. That's how much pressure Woolite and Jactroll are putting down onto them. Really great stuff to just abuse the nature of this matchup.
Yeah. A dominant start here in the 2v2, and I think that's crucial as well, because let's be honest, it has been Bean and Rhuckz getting the best of this 2v2. We've not seen too many actual 2v2 fights going on, but when it's been kills in that bottom side, it has been Bean picking them up over Woolite, especially game number 2, where we saw literally a 1v1 between the two AD carries during the laning phase. So this feels like a very good and much needed solid start in this bottom lane for the side of Misfits Premier.
Yeah, definitely. It's, of course, Bean no longer on that Varus, so not necessarily got the early damage of the lane prowess that perhaps the Varus himself, now in Woolite's hands, will be able to offer. Shlatan, very fast jungle clear, actually. Gonna take the entire his entire clear before the Skull Crab spawns.
Yeah, really good. And same for MAXI, actually, as he's just finishing the Krugs off. He'll be slightly later to that crab, but still will just be a trade of those crabs. As we said, the junglers starting opposite pathing here, and MAXI with the priority in that top side will be able to go for this crab. So very quiet start to the game here, Jamada. And it feels like this is typically what we like to see from Fnatic Rising historically, but actually in this series, I don't feel like that is what we've been seeing from Fnatic Rising. I feel like it's been all skirmishes and taking it to Misfits Premier. So I'm not entirely sure if this is a Fnatic start anymore.
Yeah, I think it's more like the first sort of 5 to maybe 8 minutes, right? You get that quiet start. That's pretty good here into Misfits, I think. But after that, you know, the expectations were Misfits, first 15, first 20. That's their time. That's their time to shine. And that's when they, you know, accrue these massive gold leads, and then they start to work with that in the mid game. Not been the case, because Fnatic Rising, as soon as we hit the sort of 15-minute mark, that second Herald spawn, they've just been willing to scrap. They've just been willing to fight and actually take it to Misfits at every single turn. We'll see if this sort of quiet nature in the early game will continue to benefit them as we progress through this game. And I think when you've got the scaling of a Ryze in this game, where, you know, he can definitely aid in locking down Sertuss, keeping Agresivoo out of fights as well.
Oh,
Be big, but if you shot him down early.
The aid of a Ryze, though, is the flash in from Jactroll. The follow on the flash as well, but the chains went wide, and it means the stun comes in. The sunlight, sorry, not moonlight. I'm sorry, Leona, I take it back. It was sunlight, I swear. It's first blood, though, importantly for Misfits, and a huge pick, and finally a mid lane advantage.
Yeah, and this is the thing, like we kind of spoke about for Shlatan's pick, maybe wanting to see the Trundle, because of course Ryze is very vulnerable to gank setup, especially when he's laning across against the likes of LeBlanc. But I mean, you chuck a Leona in the mix off the back of a reset, or just good wave management. Same result. So now Dajor with no flash means he's going to be a very, very easy target to be picked on repeat gank. So I want to see how Fnatic Rising actually maneuver their numbers around the map to try and cover their mid laner now, because he's been such a pivotal part of the series and why Fnatic Rising are 2-0 up right now.
And I want to revisit the conversation of Jactroll as well, because Sertuss has been playing exceptionally, as we expect, right? Sertuss has been an exceptional player for Misfits all year long. But Jactroll, I feel like, is redefining expectations of him as we go into the jungle here. 2v2. MAXI and Rhuckz, though, not winning out so far. Now Realm Warp as Dajor comes into the play. But MAXI can't really follow up at this point. That's going to be the level 6 spike. Sertuss still not at level 6. Pride is only level 5 right here. There is no slicing Maelstrom, but it doesn't matter. Shlatan is left to the wall.
Wow, okay. I mean, Pride was so close to level 6 that when he teleported and got that assist credit, he leveled up and gained access to the Sliding Maelstrom. I mean, if it works, right? And this means with Shlatan going down, this is a free dragon. Again, going over to Fnatic Rising. Third game in a row where they're picking up these early objectives as even-ish trade might get...
Look at this damage in the mid lane. Sertuss consistently looking for more as Rhuckz has found Woolite. Not again, Woolite. It can't happen like this. The bomb is ticking away. He has to flash. Agresivoo TP's behind the plate just to keep Sadie Carry alive. It means that Bean can walk away. And this is looking rough already for Misfits. It feels like Fnatic again starting off strong.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? It's like, you know, the gold is even, but the fact that Misfits aren't gaining these advantages again, you know, not trying to be, you know, too over the top. We're only 7 minutes into the game, but the expectations of just the whole series, right? Fnatic Rising looked at as the underdogs. Misfits just looked at as this very strong, dominant team in general. Going toe-to-toe yet again in another early game is a huge win for Fnatic Rising.
And it has to be said that once again, I think that this is a different Fnatic Rising to the one that we've seen all year long, right? We saw the mid laner swap over, we saw DL come in as a rookie, and ever since, with his different champion pool to what Febiven was bringing to the table, Fnatic had to pick up the pace of their game. And across the course of this tournament alone, I feel like we've watched Fnatic just increase in pace exponentially every single series.
Yeah, absolutely. They've just been picking up steam. Game after game, it feels like, not just series after series. And of course, I mean, in a way, before we came into the series, we sat down and we kind of compared the champion pools as well, in particular of Febi and Dajor. And you know, a lot of Febi's champion pool, a little more static, right? Your Aziz, your Orianas, yes, he played some of the assassins, but even when they played it domestically, they didn't really play super aggressively. Now with Dajor in the mix, a lot more agency individually with some of these champions that want to go and help the side lanes. And I think, yeah, all of the added time of playing in play-ins, getting, you know, what was effectively a full run in the NLC playoffs as well. It's just all of this added time for these guys to sort of meld more and more together. And I think it's finally starting to culminate in this very strong team that we're seeing on the Rift now.
And it feels like such a great moment for these players as well, because for Fnatic Rising, this isn't the first time they've been in top 4, right? Nope. This is actually the 3rd top 4 that they've been looking for. Both EU Masters in 2019, they managed to make it to the top 4. But this would be the very first finals if they can just finish this series out. They're 2-0 up, they're 1 game away from making it. It's not over just yet. They still have to finish that game, and Misfits Premier by no means an easy opponent to finish off, but it would be a dream come true for these players and for Fnatic Rising to finally make it to the finals after all these years of competing in EU Masters.
Yeah, exactly. We'll have to see how they continue to ward off some of the pressure that Misfits have definitely put in from time to time. As here we go, face check in.
MAXI's gonna walk in. Jactroll gets some stuns, but Rhuckz answers with the double pulverize. Very nicely done. And now damage on Sertuss. Curtain Call comes out as Bean has moved on over. But he's looking a bit more like a burrito right now. Won't find much. And it will be Herald priority, at least in favor of Misfits. They've had that first Herald every single game in this series. They want to try and force it again, but Fnatic Rising won't let it go without a fight.
Yeah, and I mean, the issue is here, Pride actually has his ultimate available. I think Misfits recognize the potential threat of that coming in. So just gonna back away for now. Fnatic Rising actually secure the Scuttle Crab, so gonna have that information privy to them, but Misfits not quite done yet, still willing to restart this one up. And yeah, I love it too, because I feel like this is going to be one of the timers where Misfits know they should be stronger or strong enough to win out a skirmish. They just have to keep their eyes locked on Pride. As long as he doesn't get a really good ultimate, that's all they have to worry about right now.
MAXI trying to make his way in. This is Misfits bread and butter. These early fights, these skirmishes, this is where Misfits Premier prove their worth. Pride taking a bit of chunk of damage here. Herald goes out like the Maelstrom in, and it's Fnatic to get the first kill of the fight. Now it goes Jactroll, but he's just not tanky enough. And MAXI trying to chase Realm Warp for the entire squad. Jactroll stunned up and taken out. Woolite nowhere to run, but it's a bit of a whiff from Dajor. It won't matter because Rhuckz is there to pulverize him into the dirt. It's Fnatic Rising, 4-1 on the scoreboard. Shlatan, though, he's found himself a consolation prize. He wants to get himself a burger or a steak, maybe, but Dajor will protect his support. No way does Rhuckz get away with this one. Dajor, no. He's in trouble himself. Sertuss re-enters, but the chains go wide. It doesn't matter. There's no summoners. There's no mana. There's no anything. Surely he falls, finally. Misfits get something.
Poor Dajor. dying for the sins of Rhuckz in the very end of it all. But I mean, positive fight enough for Fnatic Ryze, and they pick up the kills. On the very back end, it's actually Sertuss that secures the Herald. But look at the front line, we spoke about it, right? If Pride gets a good ultimate, this is a fight that Fnatic Ryze can take. And quite frankly, there's just not enough sort of forward movement as a unit from Misfits Premier. Olaf isn't able to really make much use of the Ragnarok. He's not able to tear apart, you know, Bean or even Pride. None of the key members to burst down. The only positive from that for Misfits is that they secured the Herald.
Yeah, they did get themselves the Herald, and that will be crucial. And importantly, Sertuss got that right. Look at the scoreboard. 2-0-0 for Sertuss. He's got this LeBlanc that we all know he can dominate games on. He's got an early lead, and he's guaranteed himself at least a couple of tower plates extra with that Herald as well. So it feels like Sertuss is the one that's set up for success. The other games in this series, it's felt like Agresivoo has been kind of the basket that Misfits are putting their eggs into, right? This time around, it's this mid lane.
Yeah, exactly. I think Sertuss, whenever he's on the LeBlanc, he just looks threatening. So, him having the Herald, like you say, just pedaling him even further ahead, it's going to benefit them so much. But Fnatic Ryze, they're going to pick up another dragon here, crucially. And for the third time, we're having a soul, Cloud Soul.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess
Fnatic fans everywhere in shambles right now.
It's pretty.
They've had the dragon advantage every time. It's been Cloud every time.
I mean, it's cloudy today, to be fair. So maybe.
I wonder if that's something that Ryze will change during the preseason. I wonder if we get another Drake change, because it's been a while since we saw a Drake change. And they changed it multiple times over the years.
It's been 2 seasons now since we've had these dragons. We'll have to see.
I mean, this is like purely just a random thought, but anyway, back to EU Masters as Rhuckz tries to make a play happen in the mid lane. It's not going to happen, at least for the time being, but he will be able to get that cannon, and I'd call that worth.
Call that worth. Going to move the numbers down towards the bottom side here, just to clear out some vision. Looks like is the name of the game. Just make sure that Bean also gets to the bottom side uninterrupted, as actually it's looking like it's going to turn into a play.
Behind. This is the bot lane from Misfits getting caught up, but it's a great chain of corruption coming out from Woolite. And now the tankiness of Jactroll is in question. Pride manages to keep himself alive, but he actually goes down in the end. And Rhuckz being chased away. MAXI buying space for his support. Rhuckz gets into the brush, but taken out anyway as Woolite finds the snipe. Now for more as Agresivoo moving forwards, looking for Gnar. He's almost managed to make it, but he's getting rooted up. And Dajor goes down to an axe, launched at him by Shlatan. Agresivoo can't close the gap, and Misfits, this beautiful skirmishing. This is what we've wanted all series.
What we've wanted all series. We're finally getting it at least a little bit here in game 3. Fnatic Ryze, they're the ones looking for the proactive play. They bite off a little more than they can chew. Teleport comes in from Pride. He's just locked up for too long to really have a massive amount of impact. And eventually,
Woolite.
For free.
Yeah,
okay.
That's a rough one.
Yeah.
That's a rough one. We'll leave it at that. Let's take another look at the fight.
Yeah, so Teleport comes in very deep from Pride here and just trying to cut off Woolite on Jactroll. The Chains of Corruption come out at the perfect time to lock him up. Solar Flare as well. He just doesn't get to move for about 3 seconds almost. By the time he does get his ultimate off. Already half HP. Drops immediately after he comes out of stasis. Heartbreaker misses from MAXI, has to flash out, and that's crucially sort of the back off signal for Fnatic Ryze. And then Sertuss manages to jump forward to the chains. He locks down Dajor right here. And from this point, too much damage comes through. All of the poke to secure Dajor.
I think Dajor was as surprised about that death as the viewers at home. I'm not sure he was anticipating that level of damage. So Agresivoo looks for potentially an all-in. No, won't go for the Gnar just yet. Holds onto that one and finally transforms on the minion wave. 2 minutes until that next Drake, but Shlatan moving down to the bottom side regardless, trying to chase Dajor off the bottom side of the map, and that's going to be a Gnar coming through. Pride has support from Dajor here. TP coming on through. This Pride does not have the Slicing Maelstrom available just yet, but Agresivoo is in Gnar, and MAXI's here as well. Flash over the wall, but he's into enemy territory. Dajor can stick on the roam up, now turn it back around, but Agresivoo is giving him a run for the money. He's trying to break the angles, hops over the wall. Can he get onto Pride? This would be insane. It's not quite going to happen. It's answered with a turret on the bottom side.
Yeah, 2 towers for this pick onto Agresivoo. Misfits very happy with this trade. No ifs, no buts about it. Sertuss isn't going to push any further, but now it's going to be Fnatic's turn to also push onto a tower. With all of those numbers committed, they understand Misfits will have to take a reset sooner than later. You can also still see Sertuss in the mid lane. So they're going to trade a kill and a tower for 2 towers themselves. See how worth this may or may not be for Fnatic Ryze. Not having that mid-tier 1 is a big deal in terms of, you know, just meaning you're usually going to have to catch the waves higher up towards, or lower down, I suppose, in this case, towards your base. And it's going to give Misfits the first move a little more frequently coming from the mid lane.
And I think, you know, it's fair to say that we always talk about this. It's not just about the amount of gold you're ahead, just like in the previous games in this series. Fnatic have been behind in gold, have felt like they're in control. It's about where that gold is, who has the power. And right now, when you look at Misfits, Shlatan and Sertuss, they already have their mythics. They already have boots coming on through as well for Sertuss. Feels like so much power in this 2v2 to try and control this game. Drake up in 30 seconds, but Herald already starts here by Misfits.
I don't think Fnatic...
Desperate to try.
I assume they do know. They're looking for something, clearly. But it's just
they're looking for the game.
They're looking for the game plan. They're searching through their pockets. Where is it? Where's the game notes? They're going to give over the Herald for free. Fnatic Ryze, though, they're going to be the ones with position on this dragon, crucially. So, looks like it's just going to be a cross map. And Fnatic Ryze, they're just going to take this dragon for free. Or I say for free, it's going to be cross map. So naturally,
look. At the end of the day, Misfits and all of the LFL fans out there right now are thanking someone upstairs for the fact that this is yet another Cloud Soul, because they can just ignore it. It's like, it doesn't really matter if the Cloud Soul goes over. Not that much. And it's definitely worth trading at least one tower, maybe even more. But Fnatic are here to answer on the top side of the map. Rhuckz takes a bit of damage here, but the tower will be protected.
Tower protected. There were no...
Bean. Now in the mid lane. Bean's in trouble, rooted up. Actually cleanses and Gale forces Bean. Nice little play there to keep himself safe. Will survive. Now clears the wave in the mid lane. MAXI coming in from the side. Agresivoo and Woolite in trouble here, but in goes the Kennen. The lightning rat forwards and Woolite falls. Agresivoo onto the enemy top laner here. It's 1-for-1 so far, as Pride will fall as well. Misfits managing to find these skirmishes and taking it to Fnatic.
Yeah, they're finally taking it to Fnatic. It's probably the first time it feels like we could actively say this in this series, which is crazy to think about. We're over halfway through the series at this point, most likely, as pretty nice pick coming out from Jactroll, or attempt from the rest of Misfits as well. But cleanse into Gale Force just gives him enough safety. A massive amount of damage from the arrow. But look at the flank. Teleport comes in from Pride, and also MAXI here as well to support. They do pick him up, but MAXI also picks up the form, and crucially, it just turns him into such a squishy champion. You'll see flashes for it, just blown up straight away. Gnar as well knocks Pride into the wall, and it's just an easy pickup on the return. The rest of the Fnatic Ryze members not quite able to support the diving members. Nice to see the proactivity, but Misfits can still capitalize on stuff like that.
And it's what we were talking about before, right? Is Sertuss on this LeBlanc, the burst damage he's bringing to the table. Now with 2 full items as we head towards that 20-minute mark. We've said it time and time again in this series, Jamada. It's about that 20-minute mark. Whether or not Misfits will have themselves a big lead to snowball, well, Sertuss does this time. It's 2,000 gold lead for his whole team. With 3 minutes until that Drake, it feels like they can control this top half of the map, at least for the time being. They've already got so much of gold off the map in terms of these towers, with 3 taken down. Feels like Misfits are in control.
Misfits does feel that way for now. We've seen Fnatic, though, at points in the game where they don't have a gold lead, and they've still managed to wrestle control away from Misfits' hands. At the top side of the map, though, in the picture-in-picture, you can see Agresivoo gonna pick up this top tier 2 for free. That's 600 gold going into his back pocket.
So, there's basically no answer from Fnatic, right? Pride is pushing in the bottom side, but this is an AP Kennen. He's not exactly a split pusher. Feels like a pretty much free objective for Misfits.
Yeah, exactly. And even if you just do the basic maths, right? 300 gold for 600 gold, that's still Misfits 300 up. Simple as that, and no one catches the waves either. And I mean, that's assuming he even gets the tower, because Sertuss reset from the top side of the map. He's gonna make it to this wave. So, Fnatic Ryze, you know, maybe a little bit sleeping towards this mid game so far. Of course, we still need Dajor to catch up to Sertuss in his items. It's a very tough ask when you're looking at a 4-0-2 LeBlanc, but once Dajor comes online, I feel like that's when Fnatic Ryze is going to feel that bit more comfortable in actually taking some of these fights. Pride as well also needs that Sonya, so he can be a little more aggressive, dive a little further forward, knowing he has that stasis to work with.
That was a little bit too close there. But the recall goes off, and I want to go back to something we talked about earlier on as well, which is the coaches coming into this one, because it feels like Misfits have come into game number 3 and changed this style up, right? They're playing for this mid jungle 2v2, but they're also getting Jactroll out of the bot lane early on. That early gank onto Dajor is what set Sertuss up with the early kill. It's what got this LeBlanc rolling for the team, and this adaptability from Heaver, the coach, going backstage and saying, hey, look guys, we got to change things up. Here's the game plan. Feels good to see Heaver, a player that has won EU Masters previously on this organization, still doing such a good job from behind the scenes.
Yeah, and this is definitely like the first game, draft to draft, where I'm like, Fnatic Rising don't have like an outright edge here when it comes to sort of like mid-game onwards. So I definitely feel credit to Misfits Premier in that regard, and they've been able to leverage a fair amount, a lot of pressure through this mid jungle 2v2, as we were hoping for them to do. And now Sertuss very, very comfortable off the back of that to play with a lot more freedom. And Fnatic Rising, they don't really have too many tools either to like lock down the likes of LeBlanc if she's, playing on her toes. And in these team fights, it's not as cut and dry anymore, right? Fnatic Rising, I think in most worlds, they have to rely heavily on the Kennen armor. And Pride, he's found quite a few good flanks so far, but how consistently is he going to find those is going to be the answer.
Yeah, honestly, how soon are they going to be able to find those, I think, is one of the questions. Because right now, Misfits, they're just strolling around the map, taking any tower that they want. 2 tier 2's already gone down. The only one remaining is in that bottom side of the map. And it feels like for Fnatic, one of the big concerns for me is that we don't have Bean on this carry that can just dish out massive amounts of damage in a fight like the Varus can. Like, Lethality Varus, you just layer in those Qs on and on and on, and it just annihilates people. Jhin is not the same, right? Jhin is a utility AD carry. It's not going to be that hyper carry. And so it feels like Dajor has more work on his shoulders. Same for MAXI, same for Pride. But they don't have the leads that they've had in previous games.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder if we do see a game 4 here, the draft adaptations to come out from Fnatic, because that was one of the more interesting things for me in their Movistar series. Not just necessarily, the gameplay, which was very stellar from that 15-20 minute mark onwards, but the way that they changed their drafts to, accommodate for how Movistar wanted to play. Seeing now that, Misfits have swapped up the style just a tad, right? Now that they've picked up the Varus, are they going to start to, try and match the agency? Because I feel like Jhin isn't exactly that. Like you say, he's a utility AD carry at the end of the day, and he can't really match that mid-game damage unless he's super far ahead and accelerated. So maybe something like, we highlighted the Xayah in the mid-game could have definitely been an option. Of course, they banned away the Rakan, but at the end of the day, into a composition like this, you could deal so much damage with the short range, and now Misfits looking for more.
Yeah, we'll focus on this comp for now because it's going to be Rhuckz caught out. He did not have that Rakan, but Alistar's pretty tanky. Solar Flag comes on out, and the damage from Woolite to finish the kill. The current call, not going to do a whole lot of anything at this point in the game. It's 8-2-7, and Misfits have control of the Baron area. They're going to pull the trigger, Jamada. They are feeling like they have control, and they want to make sure that Fnatic know it. Shlatan forced away, uses the Ragnarok to keep himself safe. And it will be enough, though, for Fnatic to deter this Baron play.
Yeah, and I think crucially, they still have to worry about Pride being in the Baron.
The flash out from Dajor. Stun comes on out. Woolite has a stopwatch, and it means this team can get there. That was dicey for Misfits. But it's going to be Sertuss that finds a pick off the back of the pick.
He's gone. Magic trick. Want to see an illusion? Sertuss sets the Pride. Simple as that. Doesn't even get to flash. He dies that quickly. Pride removed very quickly, and now the biggest threat to a Baron start gone. Fnatic Rising, they still have numbers, but is it enough if Misfits were to start up a Baron? I mean, they're more interested in actually trying to bait out a turn. Great use of the ultimate of the Realm Warp to get vision to make sure to confirm they're not actually on the Baron. Now they turn their eyes to the mid lane.
It's kind of funny to say. This has been a bit of a slower paced game than the rest of the series. Because, we've still got 16 kills on the board in 25 minutes. But it feels like now the pace is starting to speed up, and Fnatic realize that they have to do something about this situation. Because they have been just bleeding out for the last few minutes. And Agresivoo, he's just pushing for free on the top side. Pride's had to go and answer that one on the respawn. As Fnatic, I mean, Jamada, what's the game plan? I've asked you this for Misfits, both of the games when they've been behind. What's the game plan for Fnatic here? How do they find themselves a window?
I think they have to have Misfits get a little bit complacent here, maybe on a Baron start, but crucially, I think what they're looking for is just Pride to get that massive armor. I think they still need Dajor as well, to get to that 3-item mark. He's got the Zhonya's for survivability, but he still needs the third item for more damage. Now Misfits on the Baron, it's risky with Pride up, but they're going to start anyway.
That's the key thing, right? The Baron is the perfect place for Pride to find that crucial. I mean, we've all seen it 1,000 times before, right? When Kennen manages to get in the middle of a Baron pit and everyone's there, like, that's a one fight before it's even begun. So good call from Misfits to, you know, toy with the idea of the Baron, try and bait the enemy in, see if they're going to contest. If they do, all right, we back away, no worries. If they don't, though, that's a cheeky free Baron.
Yeah, exactly. I think crucially, Fnatic need to try and find a ward, much like the one that Rhuckz just put down, actually, to give Pride a flank TP onto that Baron. Just try and catch Misfits unaware, I think, quite frankly. Maybe, like we saw whilst they were still in groups, you know, using the Realm Warp to leverage some side lane pressure, have both Pride and Dajor pick on maybe Agresivoo on the side lane as he shoves up, kill them in the 2v1, and then teleport up towards the Baron if that's what Misfits go for. Get creative, try and, you know, find small windows where Misfits get a little bit too overconfident on the side lane, and then try and punish if they try and group up around the Baron.
That'd be the question. It's kind of poetic, honestly. Hang on, I'm going to hold that thought. Rhuckz goes in to try and disengage. The minion wave is cleared, though, and Rhuckz buying space for Dajor to move in and clear that wave. And it's kind of poetic that Fnatic are... Oh, Dajor almost gets one shot. Will walk away with his life, but my goodness, the damage coming out from Sertuss. He's half HP himself, though, as Woolite moves on up. Misfits continue the siege. Should finish the last tier 2 on the map, as Misfits have just complete control of the game. And as you say, Fnatic looking for some miracle flank TP or something, but I don't know if they're going to find it anytime soon, because Misfits, this macro has been immaculate.
Yeah, but they might go for an extended chase here. We'll see. I mean, teleport's coming in. They want to commit.
Okay.
They want to commit, and I mean, quite frankly, they kind of have to.
But they can't. Like, how do you even close the gap? Shlatan's here. You don't even win this fight if you find it. Fnatic, they've used the TP and it's for nothing. Rhuckz wants to flash away. Nearly goes down anyway. It's a beautiful little snipe from Woolite. Jactroll over the wall. Pride could be in trouble. The lightning rush does have his flash available. Rocket Belt used. He's desperate to hold on to the summon. I don't think he gets to. In goes Agresivoo! And the Realm Warp will buy some safety for Fnatic, but Misfits find 2.
Yeah, Misfits are so in control right here, and this is the kind of Misfits you wanted to see from game 1, where they build up these big gold leads, or these much larger gold leads than what we saw in game 1 and 2, and actually leverage it into a larger map control where they can just slowly choke Fnatic out, and that's exactly what they're doing this time around. Fnatic Rising, desperate, begging to try and find any chance they can actually get on the side lane. They pull the trigger on the teleport, and they're just like, okay, actually no, we can't commit, they're too far away. And at this point, they've committed too far forward, and it gives Misfits enough time to move and actually, you know, start to pick on members. They almost take Rhuckz down with the Ultimate, and then eventually Agresivoo builds up the Mega Gnar on the bottom side of the screen, and he manages to find this leap over the wall. Fnatic Rising, they're in dire straits right now, to be honest with you. They have to wait for scaling, or Pride has to find this massive Ultimate, otherwise I can see this going to a game 4 very easily.
And it feels like Misfits Premier are looking to represent the LFL. They've started the Baron off for themselves. They are not going to go down without a fight against Fnatic as they look to get themselves game number 3. But it's not over just yet. Misfits low on HP as the curtain call comes through. Agresivoo in mini Gnar right now. This is not a position that Misfits can fight from. They will have to back away from the Baron here as Pride goes to clear the wave in the mid lane. And Fnatic, at very least, holding on, but let's be honest, still a 5,000-6,000 gold lead in favor of Misfits. Fnatic are doing a good job to contest things, but I don't know if it's enough.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking about the things that are, you know, positive in this game for Fnatic Rising, and I guess at this point can actually backfire, they have obviously the Mega Gnar bar to work with, right? If Agresivoo gets exhausted and then he has to wait that period of time to actually start stacking up Rage again, that is the window where Fnatic Rising can very easily actually look for engages onto more members without the threat of having it actually turn back on them. But as soon as Agresivoo is in that Mega Gnar, that's it, you can't team fight. Chances are he's just going to find this massive ultimate and then you just lose the game off the back of it.
We saw it in the last fight. We literally saw that in the last fight. Agresivoo, he's got a mean Gnar and he's willing to use it. But look at the mid jungle once again. These items, both on 3 items plus boots, and they want a little bit more as Jactroll just about misses the ult there. MAXI here to protect his own support as Shlatan moving in, gets the undertow, wants to try and find more as well, but It's going to be the back away from Fnatic. It's going to be a red buff taken here for Woolite. And once again, Misfits, complete control of the map. Massive wave crashing in the bottom side right now that Fnatic are just losing. They're just losing gold across the map right now as Misfits continue to maintain control. And this is what's so great about Misfits Premier, right? We talk about it all the time. When they have this lead, their map control is just beautiful to witness.
Exactly, and now they're going to just burst this Baron down. Fnatic can't even respond. That worm is dead. Where's that Realm Warp going? In the pit?
Late to the party. Pride actually takes the Realm Warp here. Could be dangerous for him. Chain of Corruption goes wide. Pride actually flashes away from the fight at this point. MAXI low on HP, and that shield on the Olaf is insane. Arrows coming on through as Agresivoo finishes one. And Jamada, that might be the last fight of the game because Agresivoo is looking for more as well, trying to 1v1 onto the backline. Sertuss actually gets taken down by Dajor. That's going to be one kill, at least, in favor of Fnatic. They're going to stop things for now. And Pride, Dajor, can they do this one? 2v4, slicing Maelstrom. Both of them use the Zonyas, and now the curtain call. I mean, it was a good attempt. It looked beautiful, but it's not going to be enough. MAXI, though, with a stun onto Agresivoo. Beam can't get close enough, though. The Fnatic still taking apart. Misfits still in control.
Misfits still in control. They've got the Baron buff. Just about neutral in the power play. They've got 2 minutes to work with this buff. That's going to overlap the Cloud Dragon if they want to take it. They still have Woolite, crucially Agresivoo as well, if he wants to go and play to a side lane with the Baron buff. And I mean, Pride takes the party pool, like you say, but he just doesn't go forward. He's got the Zonyas, I'm pretty sure, to work with. He doesn't go for the aggressive play. I mean, I feel like if you move forward with that Kennen ultimate, you can maybe pick apart this fight, but as soon as you're on the retreat, it just gives way too much freedom to Misfits. Woolite to send forward the arrows, Sertuss to dash forward. On the return, I mean, look how much damage Dajor is capable of dealing. He is actually online now. That is a genuine concern for Misfits, but if they can take him down, I think they'll be fine. These team fights just look way too one-sided. Slapping them with their wallets, quite frankly. Nice attempt on the back end, but again, not enough damage in the AoE to really take anyone down, and MAXI just dies.
Look, I like that they try and make the play at the end there. Like, you got to at least give it an attempt. Actually, maybe a pick onto Jactroll here. The CC chain is pretty huge.
No way.
Oh, the Zenith
no way.
MAXI gets him out. Jactroll surviving. MAXI finally answers it. But it's 2 in favor of Fnatic right now. As Misfits look for more, they try and push it. In goes Shlatan for the slicing Maelstrom across everyone. No way does Fnatic turn this one around. Sertuss still going strong.
No, it's not.
And it's Misfits that take over. And Sertuss LeBlanc comes up huge.
Sertuss LeBlanc, that comes up huge. Agresivoo's Gnar as well. The slicing Maelstrom actually goes through everybody, but it just doesn't matter. There's no follow-up damage. Bean is not on a hyper carry or a champion that can deal damage like that, Varus. It's just the Jhin on 3 items, no Infinity Edge. And with that play, Misfits, they're looking to close out the game. They should just about have the death timers. We've got a series on our hands, Munchables.
We certainly do. We'll go on to game number 4 as Misfits representing the LFL, the champions of the LFL. They will not say die. They will not go down without a fight. And Fnatic Rising push to more games.
And I mean, I've got to say, I think from the get-go, and it will be touched on the desk, I'm sure, the draft adaptations, right? Removing Bean off of that Varus, a very big component as to why Fnatic Rising were finding so much success. I think if we're going to see the situation again where it's Misfits on the blue side and they're going to look to prioritize this Varus, we have to see something come out for Bean, which is more carry-oriented, so he can match that damage. Whether it's direct DPS, whether it's a poke sort of AD carry like Ezreal, something has to come out that isn't utility-based. Otherwise, it just feels like you're leaving Dajor effectively to his own devices to try and carry these team fights by himself.
Yeah. And like, that's going to be difficult when you're Ryze against a lethality Varus. You can't get close before you're going down in these fights. I've changed my t-shirt, and for good reason, because Misfits Premier have finally shown up into this series. They've shown us why they were so hyped coming into the tournament. They've shown us that Fnatic have got to do more to win this series.
got a big ego, you could see it on a telescope. I'm the same way, it's why we always argue back and forth. I swear she my poison, at the same time my antidote. She the noose around my neck, I couldn't ask for a better rope. Hey. You're like a time bomb, take it away. 30 seconds till you blow up, right in my face. I can't find one good reason to stay. So why do I wait and walk it away? You got me paralyzed. Go away, baby, take my life. 'Cause I don't wanna live if I'm living without you. Suicide love, take me out if you have to. You got me paralyzed. See a dime, keep her in my pocket like some loose change. Drone swerving on the 101 back to your place. One run, turn, fantasize about the great escape. Hands off the wheel, close my eyes, let me meditate. You're like a time bomb, take it away. 30 seconds till you blow up, right in my face. I can't find one good reason to stay. So why do I wait and walk it away? You got me paralyzed. Go away, baby, take my life. 'Cause I don't wanna live if I'm living without you. Suicide love, take me out if you have to. You got me paralyzed. You left your coat gate on my nightstand. Your favorite necklace is my right hand. Yeah, you were never a part of the plan, and it was over before it began. You got me paralyzed. Go away, baby, take my life. 'Cause I don't wanna live if I'm living without you. Suicide love, take me out if you have to. You got me
He's gonna flash in, and he steals the Varus! How did that connect by anyway? Fini!
Welcome back to our Berlin studio as Misfits finally found an answer here in Game 3 against Fnatic Rising, and will take us to Game 4. And guys, I feel like right from the draft this time, things were going well for Misfits.
What would I thought?
Yeah.
The answer was Varus. Take the Varus off of Bean, put it on Woolite, free Jactroll on the map. Ding, ding, ding. Mission successful.
Yeah, they look so much more comfortable, and honestly, like, having that control over the early stages meant that we got Sertuss into a really good spot. He was able to take over control, and honestly, playing through that strong mid jungle that we've been expecting from Misfits Premier, really showing fruition here.
What about Fnatic, though? Because it feels like they were proactive from the get-go since the beginning of the series, but here they couldn't do anything.
I felt like Dajor was not as a big factor as he was in the previous one.
Yeah.
I felt like, you know, banning the Twisted Fate from the set of Misfits from me, I think it was a big telltale on the fact that they wanted to pick LeBlanc, because the only answer would have been the Twisted Fate there for Fnatic Rising. They do pick the Ryze to match the roaming of the LeBlanc, but then Dajor oversteps, he gets heavily punished, and then we never see the side lane rolling. I felt like, yes, Pride might have had a free-ish lane, but then we go on to the other factor of Fnatic Rising, which is Bean, and it feels like a lot of the times if you can't do too much with a Jhin, it feels like you're a KDA player, but legit, there was nothing Bean could do. If he would go any further into the team fight, he would simply just die.
Yeah, I think coming back to the Dajor point, the big one for me here is like Misfits Premier taking that strong mid jungle 2v2. Because one of the things we've seen consistently throughout this, going in from Fnatic Rising, is ban away the Jhin, ban away the Lee Sin. Make sure that there's nothing that can be that aggressive early game. And we've seen the fallback being that Viego, who is incredibly strong, but not as strong in that mid 2v2. So when you get the Olaf coming in alongside the LeBlanc, you end up with this super powerful mid lane that you can look to, then enact whatever pressure you want on the map. And Misfits Premier found their leads through that.
Yeah, but the early game was not that easy for them. It feels like Fnatic were always the first one on the objective, and it's something that we've noticed since the beginning of the series. But here, when it comes to turning team fights around, Misfits was just ahead.
I just felt like Misfits got the stuff together, and these team fights were much easier for them to execute. The Olaf completely denies any crowd control, can reach your backline, can get onto the Ryze, can get onto the Jhin, which is why we never saw Bean really come online into this game, because you had to play so far away for the Olaf not to reach. And then every time Fnatic Rising would pull the trigger with pride onto the Kennen, Misfits Premier would have an answer instantly, and that answer was always Woolite's Varus. That chain of corruption never missed. And again, I feel like this champion is so absolutely broken for both of these teams that, I don't know, maybe Fnatic Rising choose blue this time and take it away. I don't know, but I feel like Varus has won 100% in this particular best of 5.
Yeah, I also think we saw Misfits Premier taking a bit of a slower approach to team fights, which is kind of what we were looking out for. That 10-minute Riptile fight completely went astray, and then they went, okay, cool. We managed to turn around 1 or 2 plays from Fnatic Rising. Let's take it slow, and you can see it here. Pride overextends in the fight. Misfits Premier are not pulling the trigger. They're slowly poking with Sertuss, slowly poking with Agresivoo, and it's only when they know they have 100% won that fight, that's when they engage, and it's been such a big difference maker for Misfits Premier here, just playing that nice slow game and playing to their style.
Oh wow, yeah. This, look at the goal diff, look at the goal graph, and yeah, again, we talked about LeBlanc, we talked about Varus. This pick has been pivotal this series, and also during all the semifinals. I'm just wondering if it's more of a draft diff than anything here.
I felt that Misfits Premier made it a lot easier for themselves, because when you're drafting the Olaf, you need priority lanes. And I felt like the Gnar was giving that on the top side. The Varus definitely pushes really heavy and unlocks the Leona onto the map. And of course, when all these bleeds into the LeBlanc lane and you get her ahead, then you have 2 very skirmish heavy champions in the hands of Shlatan and Sertuss, who really love to brawl at you on their 2v2.
And that was an interesting setup from the beginning of the game, Dagda. You're going to talk us through this. Starts from the Fnatic level 1, leading to Jactroll on the mid lane. And it's something we've been looking to see, right? Jactroll roaming mid lane, impacting his mid laner. And here, he managed to be successful.
Yeah, so this is either going to go terribly or brilliantly, because I've not used this before. So what I wanted to take a look at was the level 1 coming through here from Fnatic Rising. So the big difference here, we've seen that Jhin come through pretty consistently against things like the Varus. But you need a strong support to try and counteract the pressure that's going to be coming through from Leona. And unfortunately, you've heard on the cast, Alistar, not really a thing level 1. So instantly, Woolite and Jactroll position themselves here so they can try and aggress onto Bean as soon as he tries to approach the wave. And we'll end up seeing this here. And it's one of the big problems that I had, I'm assuming it's this one, there we go, that I had with this draft as they were coming through, was not locking in something like the Rel in this bottom lane, allowing the Jhin to contest the wave level 1. So it means that here, Bean gets half his health bar taken off the board, and he's pretty much not able to contest this wave anymore after this play. And the big issue now as we start to speed it up is that you're seeing this slow push come through from Woolite, slow push coming through from Jactroll. They're consistently just using this power that they have at level 1 to keep Bean and Rhuckz back. And one of the big things that we've spotted throughout the series is that Jactroll has been held into this bottom lane. It's been Rhuckz who's been the one that's most active. So as this wave starts to push in, you can see it just here. As you pause, we've got the, I'm not sure how I bring up the mini-map, but we got Olaf, who's down here in the bottom lane, who's spotted just trying to make sure that they can successfully crash that wave. They've got full vision control on this top side to know exactly where the opposition jungler is. I will play again. So As this wave now crashes in fully, we get the reset coming in from Woolite, but watch Jactroll, right? He ends up taking instead the little bit of a longer route back. They find the reset coming through from the side of Fnatic Rising, and Jactroll then, as we're getting the reset coming through from the Varus, roams up into this mid lane and catches Dajor completely out of position. No mana, didn't have his jungler there to help him push in the wave, so they just execute really well and get this first kill on towards Dajor, and that's where we start to see this very quick snowball coming through from Sertuss in this mid lane.
Yeah, and that's honestly, again, what we wanted to see from Misfits since the beginning, and it looks like getting them prio, obviously, leads to more better plays and more proactive plays on the mid lane. I want to talk adaptation for both teams coming into Game 4. We know that Fnatic chose blue. What do you expect?
Varus? If I do compare,
We have to talk about the Varus, yeah, for sure.
No, but for sure, I think they need something stronger on being something that he can impact the team fights later on. Because I felt like he was a little bit stranded onto that Jhin, not being able to approach the fights, not being able to be a big factor and a big carry later on. So maybe even have your sights on something like the Tristana, something like the Xayah, something like the Kai'Sa that he's played a lot into the NLC, if he cannot get his hands on something like, the Varus or the Aphelios, because it's constantly banned. But I feel like the most important thing is to try and work again around Dajor. I felt like in this particular game, because he had the Ryze, because he had so much priority and push, he didn't necessarily get the attention that he needed. Therefore, he fell a little bit behind and he wasn't a big factor on all these fights and these skirmishes.
All eyes on the ban phase also for both teams. Misfits knew what to do this time around, but will it be enough to unlock a Game 5? We will find out after the break. Don't go anywhere.
He's gonna flash in, and he steals the Baron! How does that connect by entering?
As EU Masters Champions.